Hi, this is Alicia with Pretty Much Me, and today I'm going to show you how to make a little newborn hat for the Click It for Babies Shaken Baby Syndrome Awareness Project. Go check them out online. This is a quick little hat, so the first thing we need to do is cast on 56 stitches. My favorite way to knit a small number of stitches in the round is with magic loop. So you need, if you want to do it that way, you need a circular knitting needle at least 40 inches, it could be 47 inches long, and then I'm going to do a long tail cast on. So long tail, you need a long tail of yarn, as it says. We're going to start with a slip knot, the yarn that crosses in front, we're going to pop through and put it on there. And I have a tutorial on my page, just step by step on how to do a long tail cast on. I'll do a couple stitches slow to show you. I always tell people it's like you have a little bird. The bird flies in the middle of the two. You grab the other strings with your ring finger and your pinky, and you kind of have a heart in your hand. And you're going to go up under the thumb stitch and down over and through with a finger stitch. So that's two, up, under, down, through. So like this. You're going to cast on, and you can cast on any way that you're comfortable. I like the long tail. It knits the first row. It's a nice stretchy bind off or cast on, excuse me. And so other ways that you might knit this hat, you could knit it back and forth on straight needles. You just obviously wouldn't be joining in the round. I do have another pattern that's written specifically for knitting back and forth. You will need to seam it up at the end when you're finished making the hat. So you could do it on straight needles, you could use 2 circular needles, or you could use double pointed needles. Like I said, my favorite way is to do magic loop, which just requires the one long needle here. So we gotta go till we have 56, and I'll show you how to divide the stitches up. Okay, let me double check. So you put the needles in the middle of your, you put your stitches in the middle of your needle, and 56 stitches, so it would be 28 stitches per half. So you're gonna count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. You're gonna fold that cable, the knitting cable, in between those stitches like this. All right, and so now you're prepared to knit these stitches like this. And just like whenever you're joining stitches, you need to be careful not to twist them as you're joining them in the round. So I like to just line them all up so they're all facing the center like this. The trick to magic loop, and again, this video is not specific to magic loop, so hopefully you're somewhat familiar. The trick for me, you always pull out the needle where the yarn's coming from. So I'm going to pull this needle out, and I'm going to use this needle to knit these stitches. Okay, so I'm going to join these 56 stitches, and I'm going to work twisted ribbing. So instead of knitting into that front leg of the stitch, I'm going to knit into that back leg. So I'm going to get my needle ready. I've made sure my stitches aren't twisted. Once we lock in that first stitch, we'll be good to go. And I'll show you again on a better stitch where I'm not blocking you so much. So twisted ribbing, we're going to work for 5 rounds. I'm going to show you 1 round of it, and then I will catch up with you when we get to round 6. So you knit 1 through the back loop, move your yarn to the front, you're going to purl the next. I'm sorry, I think I said knit through the back loop. You're going to knit through the back leg of the stitch, and then purl the next stitch. So again, we don't knit into the front, we knit into the back. And this twisted ribbing has gotten more and more popular. It gives a really nice defined edge or ribbing to the hat. I think it makes a really nice edge, a really nice start to it. So you're going to do this, you're going to work the twisted ribbing all the way to the end of this round, and then for the next 4 rounds. So you might think you're at the end of the round. We're at the end of the stitches on this needle. However, we still have half of the stitches to work. So the last stitch is a purl. All right, so with magic loop, what I do, once I finish this, I'm gonna pull the cord so that the cord part is big so that all the stitches are up near the needle shafts instead. Pull that, and then you flip this over. And remember my trick? You have to always pull the needle where the yarn is coming from. So you're gonna pull that needle out. If you pull the wrong needle, all the stitches will come off. You'll learn that lesson pretty quickly once you start using magic loop. And our next stitch for the rest of the half is that knit through the back loop. Knit through that back loop, purl the next. Knit through the back loop, purl the next. Pull that tail a little bit. And so remember what I said, when you finish, I pull the cord, get those stitches closer to the needle shafts. You're gonna rotate those stitches over. Okay, so I just worked one round of the twisted ribbing, which is knit one through the back loop and then purl one. I need you to work 4 more rounds of that, so 5 rounds total of the knit one through the back loop, purl one, and then I'll catch up with you when we start round 6. Okay, so we have those first 5 rounds of twisted ribbing all set, and so now the next step is just going to be to work 16 rounds stockinette stitch, which means in the round you're just going to knit every stitch, and we're not going to knit into the back anymore. We're just going to knit into the front leg as you normally would. So if you're working this flat back and forth, you're going to knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. So stockinette stitch. So you're just going to knit right along, and it's going to be for 16 rounds. I'll show you how to finish this round, and then we're going to repeat it 15 times, and I'll come back when it's time to start working the decrease for the hat. This part, if you're a knitter, is pretty straightforward. The only trick might be if you're not accustomed to working in the round, or if you're trying magic loop for the first time. So it seems like we're done. We have the other half of the stitches to work. I'm going to pull that cord, get the stitches closer to the shaft of the needle. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to pull. You always pull the needle where the yarn is coming from, and then I'm going to work into the rest of the stitches. So you're just going to work in this manner until you've completed 16 rounds of plain knitting. And if during this period, if you want stripes in your hat, or to work any Fair Isle design or other color work, that's certainly an option. I chose a variegated purple for this one, again with the purple project. That's pretty important. So I'm going to knit right around. We're almost to the end. And you're going to work this round again 15 more times. All right, so I'll see you back when it's time to work our decreases, but round 1 is done. See you in a bit. Okay, so we've done our first 5 rounds of the twisted ribbing, and now we've done 16 rounds of stockinette stitch, and we're going to start the crown decreases. So a crown decrease for a hat is worked in a pretty typical, this one is worked in a pretty typical fashion. You're going to knit 6 stitches and then knit 2 together all the way around, and I'll show you what that looks like. Then you're going to knit 1 round plain. Then you're going to knit 5 stitches and knit 2 together. So every other round you'll decrease by 1 stitch the number of stitches. So you'll first knit 6 stitches, knit 2 together, knit around, knit 5 stitches, knit 2 together, then knit plain around, then knit 4 stitches, knit 2 together, knit 1 around. So what that looks like is this. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we'll knit these next 2 together. So you do this all the way around. And then you're going to keep repeating these until there are no stitches in between the knit 2 together. So I want you to work the 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then there'll be 0 where you just knit 2 together around, and that's the point where I'll come back and finish the rest of the video. So we're going here with our knit 6, knit 2 together, 2, 4, 6, knit 2 together. Just make sure that you work a plain round in between your decreases, and once we get down to where we're just knitting 2 together, I'll come back and finish the end, and I'll show you how to make an I-cord little knot at the top, which is super cute. All right, we'll be back soon. Okay, so we did our 5 rows of twisted ribbing, we did our 16 rounds of stockinette stitch, and we did our decrease rounds until you just knit 2 together all the way around. So this next step, you're actually going to do that one more time, knit 2 together all the way around, and you do have a choice at this point. When you're down to your 4 stitches, if you don't want to work an I-cord topper like I'm about to show you, you could stop at this point and just cut your yarn and run it through the remaining stitches and fasten it off. So there's an extra stitch here, so you're just going to knit that. And so now what we're going to do is work an I-cord. So an I-cord is like a little tube of knitting that you're actually going to create by taking the yarn from the last stitch that you knit and using it to knit the first one. So you can see I pulled all the stitches. Here, I'll show you on this needle. I pulled all the stitches so that they're no longer separated by the cord, and the yarn is over all the way to the left like this. So what you need to do when the yarn is over like this is slide the work or slide the needle so that the yarn, see, is still to the left and there's no yarn over to the right. So what you're going to do is put your needle in here and you're going to knit. And there'll be a gap when you first start making your I-cord, but as you work, it'll actually close up, and it's a neat technique, and I love how it looks on these little baby hats. So again, we run the needle through and we put it back over here. So you never turn your work. You just continue to work the same manner. The only difference is you, instead of switching direction, you just take your project or your needle and pull it through the other side. So again, see how my yarn is over to the left? I'm going to take and knit as you normally would, except you're pulling the yarn around and back. And I'll knit for like an inch and I'll show you what the back side of the I-cord looks like. You can bind off now and just leave it like a little nubbin if you want to. I like to knit it for about 4 inches and then bind it off. So I'll show you what this I-cord looks like, and then I'll finish it up and come back and show you guys how to tie off the knot and finish the hat. Let me knit one more round and show you the back of the I-cord, what it does. It's pretty neat. So if you look here, it just is a knit tube all the way around. And the row that you're working, you're going to see a little bit of a gap here, but that's totally normal. So you're just going to keep on knitting until this is 4 inches long, and then I'll be right back to show you how to finish it. Okay, so I just finished working the I-cord. It's about 4 inches long. So now we're going to bind it off, and you bind it off in the same way that you were before, where you run it to the other end of your needle. You're going to knit 1 stitch, knit the next, pass that first work stitch over top, just as you normally would bind off, like that. Last one, and pass that right over. Okay, I'm gonna cut here and just run that last little part through. Put my needles down. All right, it's kind of neat when you're running or trying to hide a long tail, a tail from your work, you can just, if you're trying to weave it in, when you're using this I-cord, you can actually just put it down the center of your work. It's one of the easier ways to hide that. So I can actually see it right here. So I'm going to snip it at that part right there. Oops. Just want to make sure it's all neat and tidy. We can't see it afterwards. All right, so I'm going to cut that tail, and I already sewed in the end from where we started, and so then we're just going to need to make a little knot. So you take this I-cord and you hold it close to the base of the hat. You're going to make a little square knot, and here you have your adorable finished newborn hat. I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching. I hope you'll give it a try, and don't forget to check out the website. I put it in the description of the video. Click for Babies, raising awareness against shaken baby syndrome. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a great day.